Welcome to the Longest Take podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Longest Take podcast. In today's episode, we are joined by Sanjay Singh. Sanjay is a filmmaker, entrepreneur, and passionate advocate for representation in media. Sanjay is the founder of NUKHU, a creative platform that produces impactful storytelling across genres. Everything from commercials and music videos to short films for healthcare, fashion, tech, nonprofits, and more. He's also the president and director of the NUKHU Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit committed to advancing media diversity through grants, mentorships, job training, and educational support, especially for artists from undeserved and underrepresented communities. Please welcome Sanjay to today's episode. All right. So first things first, what are your top 5 favorite movies?
I am not generally a favorites person, but I appreciate they're a good conversation starter. Always a tough question, depending on the genre, director. I could always pull titles off, IMDb, Rotten Tomato top charts, but, I think for this question, I'm going to say the 5 films that I have high rewatchability for. Movies that I've seen like many times over and would continue to watch again. Kind of classic syndication titles. No particular order. My Cousin Vinny, The Italian Job, Catch Me If You Can, Beverly Hills Cop, and The Matrix.
Good classical list there. Definitely. And you hit the different genres too, right? You get a little bit of sci-fi action. You got the comedy in there. You just that's definitely fantastic movies to pick too.
They're feel good movies, and they bring you into a whole nother world and a whole nother time. They don't get too caught up in the art of it all. They're just entertaining.
Right. And out of that list there, who would you say, which one of those would you say, outdoes the rest? Like, if you were to pick one of those to sit down and watch right now, which one would it be?
Oh, man. If I wanted to, probably The Matrix. I could always get into The Matrix. Yeah,
I feel that. Did you like the Matrix Resurrections when that dropped a couple years ago?
Yeah, I did. I appreciate, the difficulty, having only going with half the kind of the support there, but I appreciate the direction they took it, and I love that they try to continue the story. I mean, you can always tease the world even more and more, and you just got to commend a filmmaker for trying to do that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I had seen a bunch of negative reviews on it, and then when I watched it, I was like, did they watch something else? Because I get it, you know what I mean? It's very intentional on what it was trying to do, and I think what it was doing in terms of kind of what it was saying against the studio and everything too, trying to all right, we're gonna make this with or without you, and it was cool. I appreciated that fourth wall out of the movie moment for that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Hopefully they make some more movies. Because I know they jumped into TV for a little bit with Sense8, and I think they've been a part of some other things, but yeah, we need more creatives like that.
They're such immersive storytellers, and I think the price of kind of the world building that they require in their stories will be more accessible to them. So I think that's highly likely.
Yeah, and I'll be here for it.
Me too.
All right, so NUKHU Fest is having its 10th anniversary celebration this September on the 27th. What was the origin of NUKHU Fest? I'd love for you to walk me through its beginnings and its evolution through the years.
Of course. So NUKHU started as a production studio in 2010 while I was a second semester freshman at NYU Tisch. I was directing and producing music videos, short films, and commercials. And over the next few years, I had some opportunities that took me to festivals like Cannes, Tribeca, Sundance, and learned that there was a gap in the industry between sales and distribution. So the indie filmmakers I met weren't very well versed in selling their films. Most were just trying to continue working as a filmmaker, whether that was pitching their next idea or trying to find their next collaborator. And after every festival, the connections rarely materialized into anything meaningful. So in 2013, I saw my options as a filmmaker were to try building a YouTube channel, like as a vlogger or sketch creator, and maybe make a tenth of a cent per view if I could build a following, or I could try to debt finance a larger project and hope I could get into some festivals where I might be able to license some rights to it. And both pathways were incredibly risky, didn't really provide a sensible business model to me. So I had these films that cost a lot to make, but nowhere to put them, where they would be valued. And I thought, why isn't there a platform that's curated like a streaming platform, but one that I could submit directly to for consideration? So we built NUKHU. And in 2014, we had a minimum viable product. I cold called studio executives and sales agents. I was able to build a small launch catalog. And I wanted to celebrate the top performing films on the platform. So in 2015, we launched NUKHU Fest. And in 2016, celebrated our first festival at Dolby in Midtown in Manhattan. And we slowly built our catalog over the years from tens of thousands of submissions. I would meet with filmmakers, discuss their films, their careers, potential opportunities to collaborate. And a lot of the advice and mentorship and funding we were providing filmmakers was kind of nonprofit in nature. So in 2022, we launched the NUKHU Foundation and organized all of our festival operations, including our workshops and grant awards, under a 501c3 to keep the streaming platform separate. And now we are closing in on our 10th year of programming. I'm happy to say that NUKHU has become a premier destination online for films after they complete their festival circuit. So films are watched and voted on by our online members, and the top 10 are screened at our in-person festival, NUKHU Fest. So the 10th annual NUKHU Fest is next month, September 27th in Lower Manhattan, and culminates with the announcement of this year's Best Movie.
And Best Movie being the, Best Picture selection of this fest. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. The audience top voted film is the Best Movie.
Awesome. And I love the naming of things. So really quick, where did the name NUKHU come from? And I guess Nuvi, I would assume, is movie with new instead to go with NUKHU, right? Is that
That's
accurate?
right, NUKHU
Okay.
movie. NUKHU movie.
Yeah.
So NUKHU, I've always been, interested in the origin of things. And when I was trying to come up with a name for kind of my production and studio enterprise and mission in the film space, I wanted to pay homage to the origins of language and communication. So I went back to ancient Egypt and kind of researched the concepts they had at the time. They only had about 100 concepts, two of which were the Nu, which is the creation of everything out of a watery chaos, and the Khu, which is the human spirit and soul. So together, those make up all and everything human, NUKHU.
Oh, I love that. I think that's a great, that's a great way to describe it. And apologies, my camera went out for a second. I don't know why that happened, but I'm glad it wasn't distracting. So, but yeah, that's very cool, and it's only 2 syllables, which is easy to remember and to recount. And just NUKHU, easy to say off the tongue and everything. I love that. So
I thought so.
yeah. And hey, 10 years strong. So it sounds like other people enjoy that too. That's always a benefit.
It is, it's amazing that, we're still building a base, and whenever filmmakers find us, they're like, I can't believe I've never heard of you before.
Yeah. And that I imagine that's always a great feeling too, to get that, because it just shows how much of an impact that you make when they find you, right? I think that's pretty awesome.
It is not only because of the culture of films that they become exposed to, but also just like the network, the community aspect of like meeting other filmmakers, genuine filmmakers that are interested in learning about each other, interested in supporting each other. I make myself super accessible to anyone that needs resources or help.
Yeah, and that networking, that's what it's all about. I feel like it's a necessity. Nobody succeeds in a vacuum. And some people, they like to, they kind of put themselves on a pedestal when they, get money or get to a certain point. But I really appreciate those that, instead of just separating yourself, you're like, oh, I could use this platform to build up others. Just, kind of provide that support that maybe I didn't get when I was going through it. So I absolutely love that. I think that it's all about networking with any type of art, really.
Absolutely. You don't get ahead by not responding to people.
Right. Because then, word of mouth might go around, and it might be like, oh, I tried talking to this person, but they just ignored me, or they shut me down, or,
Exactly.
But kind of speaking about, audiences for a sec here, what is your perspective on audience-powered cinema, such as film festivals, and the future of cinema, and how that all ties together?
Yeah, big question. Well, I think that film festivals are great, especially when there's a strong integrity behind them. But more broadly, any group of film fans watching and talking about movies is a great thing. Traditionally, film festivals are inherently limited by the number of films that can be programmed because of like real-time programming blocks in person and limited theaters to screen them. So NUKHU Fest flips that model, where we empower audiences to determine which films are screened in person, and then we ultimately fund the audience's favorite to make another film. And I think, audience-powered cinema is an interesting concept because on the one hand, it seems like there's a trend where the production of new films is driven by data and feedback from audiences. And on the other hand, cinema started with artists that had an idea without any regard for audiences, and ultimately inspiring them in the process. So we live in this hyper-aware culture now because of the internet. And I think the best approach forward is for audiences to be just open to supporting artists regardless of what they've already seen. And I think the testing ground for new ideas has become social media, but indie films specifically are where original ideas are being deeply explored. And I'm open to what the future of cinema looks like, how it's experienced, its impact, but there definitely needs to be a public reckoning about the difference between content and cinema. I think, all cinema is content, but not all content is cinema. Cinema is memorable, but content is forgettable. We actively engage with cinema and we passively consume content.
Right. And I think that that's a great way to put it as it pertains to something such as streaming or those websites or even YouTube, where they might provide you the content, but maybe in bite-sized chunks. So by the time you've gone through all of it, you're either hungry for more and go to something else, or you just forget about it. But
so often I find myself browsing for some time and then forgetting what I saw. It's wild.
Yeah. And with this idea of audience-powered filmmaking, so what's your, and I just thought of this question now, but what's your perspective on things such as Kickstarter, Seed and Spark? I've seen that one a lot, or Indiegogo, where it's just like another avenue where it allows people to be involved with the project, with the crowdfunding piece of it. Do you feel that that's also been a great tool for this idea of audience-powered filmmaking?
Absolutely. It definitely empowers the filmmaker even more so to self-finance their films at a local level. You still need to have some sort of social support group or community in order to successfully fund your films. Utilizing those kind of platforms, but they're definitely great tools that help make it more manageable.
Right, absolutely. And yeah, the support system is still necessary because there's a couple Indiegogo's and Kickstarters I've been a part of where it's so hard to get it to hook anybody. And, you try to go for your goal, but you end up getting like 5%, out of the whole thing by the time it's done. So that's where, stuff like NUKHU comes into play because it gives more engagement to the audience. And I think that engagement is something that you need when you are trying to crowdfund. It's not just a one thing or two thing. It's like you have this tool, you have this tool, you have this tool. Let's make it happen,
Especially for filmmakers that have already, created work. They already have a portfolio of work that can be redirected into future work, if they just monetize it properly.
Right. Yeah. There's a whole piece of it when it comes to marketing and sales. And, you kind of have to have a corporate mindset to successfully get a lot of those aspects of it nailed down. Which has been interesting, at least as far as I've been into it. And yeah, there's so much to it, and you really got to have a passion for it to even want to stick through it sometimes. You know what I mean?
You have to. It's definitely a long-term game, not a short-term game.
Right. What are the challenges in access versus visibility with DEI in filmmaking?
Yeah, so the central challenge is diversity is not really given access or visibility. A lot of media infrastructure is homogenous by design, starting at the top. Until there are more diverse executives, any diversity initiatives are just superficial. The financial risk, like for all projects, is not being diversely assessed. So a lot of non-diverse projects are given the benefit of the doubt if they don't succeed with justifications like it's just a passion project, or maybe they're even given additional promotional support in other markets. But diverse projects are not given the same level of grace at the executive level, which ultimately determines publicity and public perception. So marketing support may be misguided or withdrawn early if success isn't obvious immediately. And like, for an example, a diverse film like Sinners can perform well in its opening 2 weekends, yet still receive headlines like, will this film break even? Whereas Weapons is having a decent second weekend, not as successful as Sinners, yet the headline today was Weapons still roaring at box office. So, the everything about the narrative is definitely a challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so crazy that it's put out there like that, because Sinners, phenomenal, Weapons, phenomenal. But the idea that, to your point, the way that it's treated and its, longevity and how it's different, I think it should be obvious to anybody, what needs to be shifted and changed a little bit here in terms of the narrative and everything and how people want to perceive it.
And that definitely is going to come down from the top, until there are more decision makers that are empowered to represent these kinds of diverse projects in just a more fair way. There's always going to be some sort of angle.
Right. So what is your micropayment revenue model, and how has that been implemented to empower upcoming indie filmmakers?
Sure. So I am strongly against the subscription revenue model because they're all basically built on a house of cards. A lot of money is invested up front to build an ecosystem, acquire or produce content, and then purchase public awareness. But if any of those elements don't deliver, the whole thing collapses. So NUKHU uses a hybrid transactional and advertising VOD model with micropayments. Viewers can buy credits or earn them by watching ads and then spend them on films. So this allows filmmakers to set their own price for films and earn 50% of that price, while NUKHU uses its 50% to cover operating costs, and paid marketing programs, where we actually offer marketing support to all the filmmakers. There's no follower or subscriber minimum for filmmakers like on other platforms. They start earning from day one. All films are united to work together and keep audience in a curated environment rather than compete against each other and possibly deter audiences like on unmoderated platforms.
Right. And I think that that's an interesting model to take because, to your point, I think that, when it comes to something like a subscription, on the audience side, it's like, okay, we're paying this much money to hopefully enjoy some of the catalog that's going to be provided to us. But when it comes to the filmmakers who get their projects onto these services, they're not seeing much money at all. I mean, if you want to look at it from the musical perspective, everybody on Spotify is getting like fractions of a penny for every listen to their product, while people who are putting it on there, who the executives are getting all the money for the streams. So I think that your idea of the filmmaker not needing a quota of followers, I think that could really help build up independent filmmakers on your platform.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, how does it make sense that a film that costs $100 million and a film that costs $1 million costs the same amount, $10 a month or whatever, especially if maybe that $1 million film performs much better than the $100 million film? Like, where in that algorithm are you finding balance?
Yeah. Like I feel like it's so deep, like with the economics behind it, because you've got studios and then you've got independents and then you've got like the independent studios and and then kind of all subscribing to that same model of where they're going to distribute digitally and physically, and it's a huge rabbit hole. So I can appreciate the simplification of it in the sense of the model that you're talking about and how it's like a best case scenario for everybody, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, windowed filmmaking, windowed releases was the pinnacle of distribution, and consolidating all of those windows to basically going direct to streaming is like basically going direct to cable. You're missing out on theatrical, you're missing out on DVD, pay-per-view, premium cable. You're just going to ad-supported cable, basically. So it's, it doesn't. That's the last tier, which was always the lowest revenue stream of all of the tiers. And how does that actually, equate to revenue for all the filmmakers and all the content that you're producing? It doesn't make sense. And I also think that the audience has been kind of misled into thinking that this is sustainable and that they can get anything for $10 a month. I think it's ruined the entire consumption behavior.
Yep. And that's why, and they've kind of gone back on it, but Netflix would drop a whole season, which I actually like that model. I hate waiting for shows. I do like binging, but that creates like a shift in the way people take TV shows. And now when you break it apart again, then people are like, well, why are you splitting this up now? I want it all now. I want it, and it kind of goes with the TikTok generation of how it's portrayed to you. And there's so many different levels of this, just even from a sociological level. And it's just crazy. It's crazy.
I'm a fan of binging too. I am, but my experience with binging started, with old series that were on DVD and all. So like, I appreciate the, catching up at the end of a season, possibly, alienating yourself or hiding away from the public discourse. But I also appreciate the fact that momentum and public discourse is built over the course of a period of time. And it takes time to do that, build that cultural discussion rather than, over the course of a weekend.
Right. Absolutely. But moving on to this next question here, what are your aspirations in this field with your directorial work, editing work, being a filmmaker, a festival programmer, head of the NUKHU Foundation, a whole bunch of hats? why do you like, what do you want to do next? Like, what's your true aspiration?
I am doing it. I want to continue what I'm doing, but at a greater scale, working with more filmmakers on bigger projects and in more cities around the world. Having more awareness about our mission and more public support would enable everything I do to have a greater impact. And I have a pretty good signal to noise ratio. So every day, there are a few tasks I need to get done that are essential to keep everything moving. And as long as I execute on those tasks, everything will get prioritized and done accordingly. Kind of similar to Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, two people with impeccable signal to noise ratios.
Right. At least, we could acknowledge that about them, and, we could just think about it from that perspective.
Just those singular perspectives.
Yes. We could leave it at that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, awesome. Because I mean, it's great to have a passion for it, and I think that the more filmmakers you work with, the more they see the passion you have behind their projects. The more that you'll get people to want to join what you're doing. But to kind of piggyback off that here, I know you're stretched for time, but where do you see yourself in 5 years, whether personally or professionally?
Yeah, so I would love to have theaters around the country where we're programming films that are, the most popular on NUKHU.com, and, possibly programming in-person networking, educational events for the community. I think in-person interactions are critical to our mental health and towards the future of humanity. So I want to incubate those kind of environments as much as possible. And, I'd also love to go into production on some of my personal projects. I have scripts that I've developed over a decade ago. I'd love to give more attention and resources to.
Yeah. And I think I caught this on YouTube, but hypothetically, right?
Hypothetically, yeah.
I love the wordplay with how you spelled that. That was that was funny. So I would personally like to see you, write and direct a little more as well. Get some of the creative juices going a little bit.
I appreciate that, Sean. That was a project that I made with just a lot of determination, just an iPhone and some time, and had built up a lot more resources since then. So it's definitely possible I'll be able to create the space to do that. Yeah,
and I mean iPhones. 28 years later had a lot more with it, but iPhones being used to film movies, that's something that is now becoming commonplace just because of the technical abilities, right? That's so cool.
Sure. Yeah, 28 years later, I see you, Danny Boyle.
Yeah, right. But awesome, man. So before I let you go, just plug your socials, places we could find you, your NUKHU website, perhaps. I'll give you the floor right now to kind of say your piece with that.
Sure. Yeah. I'd love anyone that's interested in what we're doing to reach out to me directly. You can contact me at Sanjay Vision on most platforms, SanjayVision. You can email me at sanjay@nukhu.com and check out nukhu.com. It's a great platform supporting independent filmmakers from all over the world. And the film that you vote for could end up, funding the next filmmaker, and you can end up watching their next film.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sanjay. It was a pleasure talking with you, and I'm looking forward to what the NUKHU Foundation cooks up next.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for your time.